that it's mainly those who are already educated, who are already well paid, who actually use distance, who actually use what we call MOOCs, the open online courses. So typically it's you people who use open online courses like Coursera. The others who actually you think would need them do not even touch them, even though they know they exist. So we need to kind of have teachers still who go out there and teach people, okay, you can do this. We've created this new innovation. Does it actually work for you? Can we actually use it with you? And continually doing that. So if we continue going the way we are, more people will lose jobs. And what happens when people don't have jobs? The crime goes up, and so on and so forth. So we need to find new ways of creating new skills opportunities such that as soon as people finish with the skill, they can get into a job immediately. So we did some analysis using decision tree techniques, and we found that the majority of people in some areas like the Eastern Cape, the majority earn this kind of money, 64%. The others don't earn this. And what we call the digital predictor, these are things which would be able to indicate or there's a significant relationship. We found that personal email was that. In the Free State, the main income is none, 50%. There's high unemployment there. But they use a lot of e-money or mobile money. In Gauteng, mainly it is CLC. I don't know what that means, but we need to dig a bit into that. So we have data which suggests that there are different digital indicators per province, even per population group. We found that people in the rural area, in the peri-urban areas, mainly are digital device ownership. It means that if you're going to do anything technological there, you first need to put a computer lab, for example. You need to give them infrastructure. If you go to township areas, they are typically using technology. And when you go to urban areas, they are already participating. So if you're creating opportunities, they've got to be different. I already mentioned about online education. We find that people mainly do it. For those who do it like you, they do it mainly because the course is accredited. But then the thinking around is like, let's create more MOOCs so that people who are poor can learn and then get jobs. But the reality is that they won't use them. Okay? So the question is, how do we create courses which people can actually use and improve themselves? We also find that gaming is a big deal. Unless we make educational content more entertaining, maybe we should have teachers who dance or something. And if teachers are to dance, then we need to go for drama classes. And how that works, I don't know. But we need to have a bit more entertainment in education if we're going to make education actually work. So for us, the question is, how do we get all these things together? We're just presenting some of what the data suggests. How would open innovations, how can we innovate around our educational systems? Can we create new kind of curricula and be more creative with that? So the organization that I'm representing for now is called UNISA, National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa. It's a government state-owned entity. It focuses on collaboration, strategic institutional partnerships. So we're constantly looking at organizational entities which are willing to partner in creating new digital skills curricula on how we can actually address poverty, unemployment, and social inequality. Okay? So it's, we've got a presence in all the, we focus on creativity and innovation. We've got a presence in each of the provinces of South Africa. So for example, in the Mpumalanga, we've got Prof. She's the collab director there. So if one wants to participate in this kind of interesting research, one can communicate with that. In the Western Cape, it's University of Western Cape, and so on and so forth. So we also have international partners, we've got strategic industry players, so we're throwing all of this stuff together to try and innovate and create new ways of doing things. Okay. So our fundamental is innovation and creativity, and we find that very important. To say, how are we doing the old stuff? How are we solving today's problems using new ways? That's very, very important. Okay. So we are focused on a human-centered design, like you mentioned. The focus is on the human as a person, and to identify the contextual needs of South Africa. Okay. So what we seek to create is create career and digital skills pathways. So for example, what kind of new competencies would someone who is unemployed need to gain in order to become a blockchain specialist, for example? So you get someone off the streets and train them. What would that curriculum look like? If we're not being driven by profit, what would it actually contain? Are there jobs if someone finished such a course? So we're going beyond training into jobs and also looking at how to create income for whoever we train. So we also play a catalytic role in the sense that sometimes we know we can't do it all. Sometimes we just connect partners and say, we know you do that, we know you do that, so let's, I think the two of you should connect. So we also offer opportunities for research, PhD, master's, and honors level. Of course, they're competitive going forward. So if you've got a research area in any of these things that we've talked about, we'd be interested in hearing what you've got to say. And we've got a summit coming up next year in March. If you're interested in submitting a paper, just let me know, drop me an email, and we could talk about that. So we're now conducting a research at the moment which looks at digital skills within organizations. How are people, we're looking at the changing nature of work, essentially, to put it down to how are jobs changing? Is the job that you're doing today going to be different tomorrow? And if it's going to be different tomorrow, what should you be doing in order to be competent for that job of tomorrow? Because the jobs which are being lost in the financial sector, believe it or not, we knew about it about 4 years ago when we spoke to the IT managers of the financial sectors. They were saying, we're restructuring, we're going to create a better system with better infrastructure, much less expensive, and guess what? We'll have to lay off people. But did we prepare for that? The question is no. So when people are being laid off now, we are worried. So what do you do with those people who are being laid off? Do you just give them packages? We know that most people are one paycheck away from disaster. So what can we do about that? How do we create new kinds of skills? So we're trying to identify what the jobs of the future will be in South Africa and seek to prepare people. So all these scientists, we need you working together in order to create new ways of thinking around the current problems that we are experiencing in South Africa and Africa. So to end this talk, I just want to quote two of my favorite people. Nelson Mandela, okay? As we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. Essentially, if we are driven by making the world a better place, the chances that we create new innovations which will actually improve South Africa are much, much, much higher, and Africa. And this is my other more favorite person, Steve Biko. It's better to die for an idea that will live than to live for an idea that will die. What I get from this essentially is, rather than being driven by competition, how can we be more driven by sharing and caring? If we are creating new jobs, because if people have jobs, they are happier. Generally speaking, people don't like to be unemployed. Maybe some do. Okay, but generally speaking, everyone wants to be gainfully employed, gainfully doing something, but does it have to be monetary as well? So if we can engage people like that, that would really, really help. Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I think there is a sort of a handshake between the fourth industrial revolution that is mainly driven by creativity and innovation, and a government that has got very strong pillars of communism that gives a lot of handouts to the people.
Okay, how do you mean by that? The communism, say that again? You're saying there's a strong handshake between...
Yeah, I'm saying, do you think the fourth industrial revolution can coexist with a government model that gives a lot of handouts to the people, which in turn sort of minimizes innovation and creativity.
Interesting. Oh, that's a big one. Okay. How would I answer that question? Does the current fourth industrial revolution have anything to do, if I understand you correctly, can it reshape or can it contribute to how government or counter, is that what you're trying to say? Can it counter the government's move more towards communism, where it gives more handouts? How would I answer that question? Gina?
My personal take on this is that some of what is driving the turn from caring and sharing to greed and getting up the ladder and the troubles we have is income inequality. And I think some income inequality drives innovation and creativity, encourages you to work, right? But let me ask you this question. If you had 1,000 times more than someone else, 1,000 times more, if your house was 1,000 times bigger, if you had 1,000 times an annual salary, is that enough of an incentive? That feels like a lot of incentive, right? If I work hard, I get 1,000 times bigger house and 1,000 times more salary. But we don't have any caps on income inequality. We're not talking about people who have 1,000 times more. We're talking about people who have hundreds of thousands, millions of times more. So I think there should be incentive. I want incentive. But I think 1,000 times more is enough. And I think the problem is when you have forces that drive, not, I'm going to take it all because I can. I'm not going to take it all because I need it. I'm going to take it all because I can. And I think we need some governmental structures and things that don't allow that.
Interesting. You're correct, and it's a very complex problem. In my opinion, if you go down to the ground level, you go down to, say, a township, you go down to a rural area. The legacy of apartheid literally disabled an entire population in the sense that it messed with the mind. So if someone doesn't have the incentive or the drive to actually, or doesn't believe that they are able to achieve, how do you expect that person to innovate? They are already, can I say, mentally disabled. So the handouts are a short-term mechanism, yet there must be another alternative in order to transform minds as well, and also begin to participate and get gainful employment. Does that make sense?
So it's strange, I was watching a documentary of the fastest human beings we have. The last 5 of the last 7 fastest human beings on earth have come from Jamaica. And if you look at their training facility, was being compared to the training facilities in the US, where the incentive is money. So this one is highly driven by profit and competitive, and this one is driven by rudimentary type of competitive and sharing. You should see both training facility. I mean, he trains with township guys and all sorts, but the quality that comes. So I'm also conflicted in trying to understand whether this idea of what's the word, where we're driven by money. I mean, the guys from the US, what's his name? They are really pissed off because they've got the highest performance centers with all sorts of modeling, and these guys in Jamaica train on grass and they chase goats around. But 5 of the last fastest human beings in the world have come from Jamaica, including the world record. So this whole conflict of, as I said, the 4th industrial revolution, and I like the caring part because I think there still can be progressiveness, because there is another word for greed that drives human beings, is progression.
Progress.
Yeah.
So progress is probably a better one. Okay, first let him say something then, Gina.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to approach this one from the motivation point of view. Because if we look at the three characteristics of motivation, we find that there should be direction, persistence, and effort. And one thing that matters for one to do something is the passion, not waiting for material. Because sometimes when you're waiting for money, you find that when there is no money, you cannot continue to do that. And in most cases, those people who wait for material, in one way or the other, I consider them punishing themselves. Because if they don't get that one, they get punished. But if ever you think, I have the desire to better my community, I have the desire to improve the people or the conditions of the people that I'm living with, then you will continue to do that because that is something that you aim to do. It's coming from the team. So that is